A man is killed in a famously bizarre way, and that's not even the coolest thing about his life. And then we take a look at 3 bizarre Bigfoot stories. This isn't a giant lumbering beast moving through the forest, no. This monster is the guardian of another dimension, today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. We got a lot of stuff to cover today. We're going to get started. First off, I want to give a shout out to one of my legacy Patreons, Lambie. Lambie, thank you so much for continuing to support the show. I'll give you the keys to the Carpenter Copter in just 1 second. First off, though, let's talk about the Dead Rabbit Radio Movie Club. Now, Friday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm going to do a live stream where we're going to discuss all the movies we watched this week. We watched Housewife, we watched Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bolorama, we watched The Baby. Last night, I watched Nectrotronic. Very interesting movie. All of these movies are available on Shudder.com. They're also available other places, but right now Shudder.com has a free offer. Not sponsored by these guys. I'm just trying to share this with you because it's free. 30 days free if you use the promo code SHUTIN, S-H-U-T-I-N. So those are the 4 movies we've watched. The movie I'm going to watch tonight, and I don't want to watch it, and I'm watching it because I love you guys, and I mentioned it on my live stream, that this movie was too scary for me, because I hate... The Ring, The American Ring is one of my favorite scary movies. I think it's terrifying. I don't know how well it holds up, but emotionally it really, really scared me. The Japanese versions of The Grudge, or Ju-On, are superior to the American versions of The Grudge. Well, anyways, some idiot realized, someone in Japan goes, how can we scare Jason the most? So they made the movie Sadako versus Kayako. It's The Grudge versus The Ring. So I'm going to watch it tonight. I actually was going to watch it, be a big baby, and watch it during the day. I'm recording this at like 1 in the afternoon because I took a Benadryl and I'm super sleepy. But I was like, no. My fans demand more. So I'm going to watch this at late at night. You guys are like, Jason, it's just 2 little girls throwing their hair at each other. Why are you so scared? Because both those characters terrify me so much. And technically, Kayako's not a little girl, but is a woman. But anyways, the point is that The Grudge and The Ring absolutely terrify me. I've seen most of Ju-On. I think I've seen all of the Grudge movies, and I've seen 2 or 3 of the Ring movies, the Japanese versions, and I've seen all the American ones, but... Oh, wait, no, I didn't see the latest one. Ooh, maybe I should have watched The Ring 3. I heard it wasn't that good. But anyways, the point is that any excuse not to watch a Ring movie. Oh, it's not good? No, Jason, it's super terrifying. What? I can't hear you. You said it's lame? You said the plotting's bad? No, it's really good. What? La, la, la. Can't watch bad movies. Even though that's all I watch. Tonight, Sadako versus Kayako. And then tomorrow night, Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, live stream on YouTube. We'll talk about these movies. Let's go ahead and get started with this episode, though. Now, what's funny is there's a very, very famous story. This is one of those stories, like when you read like a BuzzFeed article or a Ranker article about weird and wacky deaths. This one always pops up. But I think his death is actually the least interesting thing about him. But the death is pretty crazy, too. Lambie, fire up that Carpenter Copter and hit that time machine button right there. We're going back to the year 455 BC. We're headed back to Greece. Goes through the portal. Now we're hovering over like a bunch of ruins, but I guess they weren't ruins back then, right? Everything looked nice and nothing was crumbly. So we're the ones who are making the ruins. Lambie's flying the helicopter, knocking over all this stuff. Oh no, my Colosseum, I just built that. Going through everything. I planned that. Knocking the nose off the Sphinx. We make a trip to Egypt just to do that. We're coming back to Greece. And then we're going to meet a dude named... Get ready, guys, because I don't know. I don't even come close to know how to spell this name, pronounce this guy's name. Aeschylus. So, Aeschylus is this dude. Now, this is one of those stories that I've heard 100 times, and it's actually true, which is interesting, but he has a bizarre death. Aeschylus is a dude, and he's a famous playwright. He's very well known throughout Greece. Everyone loves this dude. But one day he gets an omen that he's going to be killed by something falling on his head. And he's like, well, I'm out of town because look at all these huge buildings. These buildings are like 2-3 stories tall. This is the height of human engineering. Nothing will ever be this tall. I'm going to go out into like a plains area. I'm going to go out. I'm going to tap it for my white mana. And I don't have to worry about anything falling on my head. I won't be under a tree. He's walking. He's like, okay, see you guys later. He's leaving the town. He's walking through like a coconut forest. This is getting kind of nervous here. He sees a sign, landslides next 10 miles. He's like, But eventually he does get to the plains. And then what happens is he's a bald-headed dude, right? Or partially bald. It doesn't matter. The top of his head is shiny. Well, a vulture is flying overhead. Now, vultures, they have this trick where they want to eat tasty, tasty turtles, but they can't get to that turtle meat through the shell. So they pick up turtles, and then they drop them on rocks and crack them open, and then they fly down and eat the guts. How does that work evolutionary-wise? Like, I don't get that. Like, you figure vultures, for the first 10 million years, were they just trying to eat turtles? This is what I don't get about evolution. I know I don't want to go on a rant, but this is what I don't get about evolution. Let's say there's a turtle walking by and it has this armor and a bird's like, I want to eat that. And it can't get it. The bird then doesn't immediately go, I know, and then drop it on a rock. It would take like 10 million years for the bird to go the bird flies down, tries to eat the turtle, flies away. Bird flies down, tries to eat the turtle, flies away. That happens for like 1 million years. And then eventually the bird flies down, flips the turtle over, tries to eat it. That doesn't work. And then his son, and then his grandson, that happens for 1 million years. And then the bird would have to fly down, pick the turtle up, and drop him, but it is not enough to kill the turtle. This turtle is very long-lived, by the way. And the bird does that, and then eventually the bird, after 10 million years, the bird knows that it can swing down, pick up a turtle, pick it up, drop it, crack it, know the specific height where you would need to drop it from, because first it would just pick it up and drop it a couple feet away, and it would be totally fine. And then it would drop it a couple more feet. I don't get that. And because then you would think that vulture would be like, screw this, it's 10 million years and I haven't eaten a turtle yet. I'm just going to eat squirrels. Does it pick up squirrels and throw them too? It doesn't, I'm not saying I don't believe in evolution, but I think when you break it down like that, it doesn't make sense. I don't get it. And what also doesn't make sense is over the course of that 10 million years, the turtle's evolving too. So first off, the turtle's has a little weak shell. And then the ones that don't get eaten, the shell gets harder and harder and harder. But eventually, now that they're getting dropped and broken open all the time, the ones with the super hard shells could survive the impact and they jump off and they go mate. So then you would have turtles that had even harder shells, so the vultures would have to evolve to lift the turtles up higher, and they'd have to be stronger to carry a bigger turtle. It doesn't make sense. I don't get it. You can look at evolution on a global record and go, yeah, that kind of makes sense. A dog walked into the water and 10 million years later had little flippers. That's what I was taught in school. Became a whale. Dogs kept eating fish and the fish kept being farther out to sea. So eventually the dog started swimming and then the dog started giving birth in the water. This is no joke what I was taught. I don't know if this is still the science today. But when I was in 5th grade back in the 80s, we were shown a slideshow that dogs kept walking into the water and then started having their babies in the water, and then the babies with the paws would dog paddle, but then some babies were they're born with flippers so they could get more food, and the dogs who just dog paddled couldn't, and that happened for 10 million years, and then one day, a dog gave birth to a whale. The mom's like, what? Where'd that come from? Where's all your fur? Where's your snout? Floats away into the ocean. I don't know if that's still I think that's an overview of evolution, but that's what I was taught in 1984. I remember looking at the slideshow and I was like, what? That doesn't make sense. You figure eventually dogs would be like, screw fish. If my feet are turning into flippers, ugh. Let me go figure out how to pick up a coconut, drop it off a mountain to drink that delicious milk. Anyways, so that rant aside, you can tell the Benadryl, the Benadryl's kicking in. That rant aside. Aeschylus, interesting dude, right? Gets a turtle, smashes his head open, he dies. Did I finish that story? The vulture picks the turtle up and drops it, and it thinks his head is a rock. I don't know if I finished telling the story. Thinks his head is a rock, smashes his head open, kills him on the spot. That's not an urban legend. That's actually how he died. I started looking into it, and I was like, oh, this must be some apocryphal tale. No. All the accounts of the time say a poor... maybe it's Aeschylus. It doesn't matter. We'll call him Chelius. Poor Chelius. Poor Chelius. He was out. He got this omen. He got killed by a falling turtle. And so that is actually historical proof. And I had heard that story a long time. Whenever I see a thing about weird deaths, that's always listed there. But I was actually planning on doing an episode about just weird deaths from the ancient world. And this dude is way more fascinating than just getting clobbered by a turtle. He was born in the year 525 BC, right? He's working in his vineyard. He's just a laborer. He comes from a pretty rich family, actually. But, he's working. He's not slacking off. And one night he has a dream that Dionysus, the god of wine and the arts, visits him and tells him, you are not meant to work in a vineyard. You're not meant to simply exist. You need to be a playwright. Now, theater was around, obviously, but the guy didn't wake up and go, what's a playwright? God of theater? What's theater? Theater was around. But this guy, Chelius, has a dream and ends up creating an art form. This is so bizarre. I never even thought about this before. I think you guys have listened to the show long enough to know I think about everything at some point. This is so weird. So he starts writing plays. Now, back then, plays were structured like this. A guy would come out on stage, and theater was huge, obviously, in Greece. Like, we can still go back and look at a lot of these plays that were written back then. And plays like Romeo and Juliet, a lot of Shakespeare's plays are based on themes, really just rip-offs of old Greek plays. But anyways, you would get up on stage, and I would go, there was a mountain. It's basically storytellers. There was a mountain over there. And then you'd have the chorus be like, over there, over there. And then Zeus came down with his mighty lightning bolt. Ooh, lightning bolt. Ooh, lightning bolt. That was basically theater. It was a storyteller. Well, Chelius has this dream, and it starts writing plays, and he's going to all these, showcases and stuff like that. And he goes, you know what would be dope? If I wrote 2 different people talking to each other at the same time. Everyone's like, whoa, Chelly, hold on. He's like, no, hear me out. Normally, a guy tells a story about Zeus coming down and punishing a vain man. What if I had one guy on stage playing Zeus? Everyone's like, please don't finish the sentence, please. And another guy on stage playing the vain man. He was the first guy to have dialogue on stage. People were going to his place and they're like, what in the world? Whoa. Is there more choruses? Why are all these people standing around? He was the first guy to have Zeus come down and be like, you over there. And the guy would be like, me? Yes, you. You were being vain. It was blowing people's minds. It would be the equivalent of, in 1954, if you went to go see a movie and it had Transformers special effects in it. You're like, what in the world? I thought I was going to go see them. Thought I was going to go see a giant ant movie. Instead, it's full-on CGI, full-color, bizarre, mind-blowing explosions. That's what it was. He invented dialogue on stage. Also, so they had this competition that he wanted to get into. He won a ton of awards, obviously, because he was creating theater. He was creating the theater that we know of today. They have this showcase, right? Each playwright had to present 3 different plays. You had to bring 3 different plays to be in the showcase. And that was generally how it was. So you'd go and you'd watch 3 plays by one playwright. People would stand on stage chorusing, and you'd see 3 plays by another playwright. And they'd be first play would be about Zeus, the second play would be about a battle from long, long ago, and the third play would be about a father letting his daughter, get married or something like that. Chelius is watching all these plays, and he goes, you know what? You know what would be really cool? He gets an idea. He's stroking his beard. It's his time to go up on the showcase, right? His first play is about the Battle of Marathon. Now, that really blew a lot of people's minds because there were people in the audience who had fought in the Battle of Marathon. Chelius had fought in the Battle of Marathon. And this was the first time people were watching plays about historical events they were in. The plays were usually long, long ago, like a storyteller, like Star Wars a long, long time ago. People were sitting in the audience and they're like, what? I know that battle. I was in that battle. Look I don't have a leg. This is super bizarre. So he was doing plays about relatively current events within the past 10, 15 years, which was mind-blowing. People were sitting in the audience. They're watching this play about the Battle of Marathon. Then his second play comes up because they're all in a row. The second play is about the character from the first play's son dealing with some stuff. People in the audience are like, what? Wait. Is this like the same play but longer? The third play was about another member of the family. He invented the trilogy. No one had ever done that before. People went to go see 3 completely separate plays by one playwright. That's how they kind of judged the breadth of their... He wrote the first trilogy. People were like, what is this madness? It got multiple people talking on stage, stories connected that tells a generational saga. Which is funny because I've always thought, why trilogies? Why do movies try to go into trilogies? Like, sometimes they'll go more, but it's usually like the Matrix trilogy, the Star Wars trilogy, and even the Star Wars is broken up into different trilogies and all this stuff. Iron Man 1, 2, and 3. Like, why do we have a trilogy? I think that's why. I think it's because that's the oldest story trope thing, where you have a trilogy, you have a separate storylines, but then they all interconnect. That guy invented it. He's remembered for a turtle dropping on his head, but he created dialogue, he created the trilogy, he created like massive set designs, he had pulleys and stuff like that. And again, so it wasn't just 2 people standing on stage, it was 2 people standing on stage, backdrops, lighting, costumes, all of this stuff. This guy really invented. And what's funny is, in the end, world famous playwright at his time. Nowadays, he's remembered for a turtle falling on his head. But in his life, when he died, he goes, the people asking, what do you want to be remembered for your tombstone? He didn't care about the theater. The thing he was the most proud of was the fact that he fought in the Battle of Marathon. That's what's listed on his tombstone. Not the fact that he created an art form. Because it was just storytelling before. He created theater from a dream from the god of theater. He created everything you see today. But he wanted to be remembered for his bravery and him standing by his brothers and standing for his country at the Battle of Marathon. Because in the end, that meant more to him than all of these plays. Most of his plays have been lost, but we do have some of them. Like, we do have his play about the Battle of Marathon and stuff like that. He wrote, I think, a couple hundred plays. I'm not saying they were super long. I don't even know how good they were, but it doesn't matter at that point. Like, even if they sucked, he was the first person sucking at an art form. It's just interesting I never thought about that. I thought theater was just so intrinsic and it was a community evolution. Nope, just one guy had a dream, woke up and goes, oh, I think I'm going to change the world of entertainment today. Fascinating. So is getting a turtle dropped on his head. But that didn't create the fact that I can sit down and watch Sadako versus Kayako, or whatever the name of that movie is. I don't even want to pull back up the picture because it's so spooky on my computer. That movie exists because this guy had a dream. That's fascinating. Super, super amazing. Let's go ahead and move on to our next story. Now, our next story is a collection of little stories, but I think they paint a bigger picture. These all come from that website, thinkaboutit.docs.com. These all happened within a span of a few months. Lambie, let's fire back up. Let's take the Jason Jalopy, because we're going to do a little bit road trip. So we're leaving behind Greece. We're coming back into the present day, and we're actually driving up to Mount Hood, Oregon. It's 1989. It's night. And there's this farmer. There's a lot of rural community up here. There's a farmer near Mount Hood, and he's just, I don't know why he's yawning. It's at night. He's walking around. He's wearing his PJs. He has on his suspenders. And he's walking around his farm. And then he just sees it appear. What? It's a shimmering, what he described as a raindrop, just appearing in front of him. It was 6 to 7 feet in diameter, so quite big. And he said he could look through it. He could see on the other side of this big raindrop hovering off the ground near his property. Now, he doesn't say that it's nighttime. And I think it's interesting because when he looks through it, he doesn't say what it looks like. But I think if it was nighttime here, and then it was just more nighttime, and it was like a shimmering thing, I don't know if you'd use the term look through it. This thing about it, docs.com is just a lot of these little stories, but they do have the source. This comes from the WBS Alien Report, Volume 1, Number 2. I couldn't track that down. I couldn't actually track that source down, but I'd like to get more information. The raindrop appears, and he says he can see through it, which could mean one of two things. The raindrop was just kind of a fuzzy thing, and he could still see the nighttime trees behind it, or he saw another reality through it, like daytime, another world. But whatever the matter, that's actually not important. I just think that's a weird visual trick. He says you could see through it, and as he's looking at it, what in tarnation is that? Bigfoot jumps through the portal and starts running into the woods surrounding Mount Hood. Farmer's just kind of scratching his head, looks at the camera, shrugs his shoulders, teardrop disappears. Summer 1989. Let's drive on down to Red Canyon. That's in Sedona, Arizona. That rhymes. Sedona, Arizona. It's daytime. It's a beautiful, sunny day in Arizona. There's a house being built in the middle of nowhere, i.e., anywhere in Arizona. And this guy's walking around this construction site. Yes, this building will look amazing once it's finished. Right now, it just looks like a pile of wood. And then he sees a portal open up. Now, this is interesting because this story is in a totally different book. Same website is collating all this stuff, but this is a totally different book. It's from a book called Alien Tide by Tom Dongo. The thing I find Tom Dongo, what I think is fascinating about this stuff is that if all of these things were reported in the same magazine, it can be a little more suspicious. But the fact that different books being published at different times and they're not cross-referencing it. Even this website, Think About It Docs, this was just a list of 1989. They weren't even making the connection. They were just listing everything that happened in 1989. So it's interesting when you're reading these giant lists and you're going, that sounds familiar, and you go back up and you're like, oh, here it is. Tom Dongo and the WBS Alien Report both did not connect these, as far as I can tell. Portal opens up during the day in Sedona, Arizona. And Sedona also is known to have a lot of mystical activity and stuff like that. We've covered them before on this show. He can see through the portal. Just like the farmer in Mount Hood. He's, what? What in the world is that? This portal is like a circle this time, and it's a couple feet off the ground. It's just hovering a couple feet off the ground like the first encounter. He's looking through it, and he sees on the other side several Bigfoot, who he described as 9 feet tall, which is big even for Bigfoot. Bigfoot's normally like 7, 8 feet tall. And he got the impression, before he turned and ran and got in his car and drove away, he got the impression that they were standing guard. The portal opened up and they were on the other side to prevent somebody from getting in, was his impression. They were there to keep him or anyone else out. So he runs to his car, drives away. So that's kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if they all had their arms crossed like they were rappers or something like that. But he got the impression to leave, which I think one Bigfoot sitting reading a magazine in an interdimensional portal would give me the impression to run away. But he beats feet. He gets out of there, right? This next one, we have a little more information. September 27th, 1989. So last one took place in summer. The first one, we don't know exactly when it took place. But this one takes place September 27th, 1989. Oregon, again. Tillamook, Oregon. It's 4:20 in the afternoon. Grandma's in the house doing dishes. Dude, that's sexist. Grandma's in the house running her Fortune 500 company. And granddaughter runs in. Grandma, there's something outside and it's super spooky. Grandma, come and see. Come. And the grandma's like, okay, I'm all done being president of this company. Eyes are shifting side to side as she really has cookies baking in the oven. She just tells her granddaughter she runs a Fortune 500 company. Grandma runs outside, and then she sees what she describes as a inverted spinning top. So you have a top. You guys know what a top is, but a little toy. and spins, and lamest toy, right? Who's like, wee, momentum for 2 seconds. Lame. The original Beyblade. But anyway, and even those suck. But anyway, so it's an inverted top. So little pointy things at the top, and it's like hovering. So basically, she could have just said it looked like a spade. Not like the tool, but like the card club thing. Or just like, I don't know, anything other than a top. It just brings back bad memories. Whoever got a top for a present, like, hey, here you go, Jason. Yay, it's Christmas. Open a box. Oh, thanks. Thanks, what I always wanted. A spinny thing that only spins for a few seconds. Yay. It's hovering off the ground. She describes it as being 20 to 30 feet in diameter, which is quite huge. I mean, that might not be big for a spaceship, but it's quite big to see when you're walking outside of your house because your granddaughter won't shut up. There's 20 to 30 feet of raw alien technology in your front yard. That's quite huge. And it's just kind of hovering there. His grandma is brave. She walks towards it. She gets within 30 feet of the thing, and that's when door opens up. And she sees standing inside of the UFO that's just hanging out in her yard a blonde woman, normal height, normal appearance, but wearing a silver bodysuit. And that's interesting because yesterday's episode, we had the 7-foot-tall alien who ransacked that dude's house. He was also wearing a silver bodysuit. And I wonder if that's because we connect silver suits with the future because of like old sci-fi movies we've watched, or there actually is an advantage to having a silver suit. Like, that seems like such an odd detail. Either aliens really think they look good in silver. Man, this really brings out my skin tone. Now that I'm underneath this yellow sun and not the 2 blue suns of my home planet, I'm gonna wear more silver. Or is it because if you see someone in a silver suit, you go, like in that old show, Get a Life, when Chris Elliott covered himself in tinfoil to pretend he was a robot. Isn't this like living in the future? That ain't nothing like living in the future. Like, you associate, that's a throwback. Anyone under the age of 40 has no idea what that was. When you see someone wrapped in silver, dressed in silver, you have a connotation in your head that that's futuristic. And I wonder why. But anyways, I think it could point that there's aliens do actually wear silver, and that's where we got the idea for the sci-fi from, or all of these accounts are just people are piecing together things in their mind and they're using motifs that they believe are supernatural or alien because they've seen that stuff in movies and things like that. But anyways, I digress. The woman standing there in front of this UFO, door opens up and there's an attractive young blonde. Actually, I added the word attractive. I'm assuming she was attractive. Blonde hair, blue eyes. She's just standing there. Now, the grandma's looking at this woman. The woman's looking at the grandma. But then the woman's eyes slightly shift. So now she's looking into the UFO, past the woman. And there, sitting in a chair, at a control panel, is Bigfoot. UFO just vanishes. And the grandma's left, like, what? And what was that? And the granddaughter's like, shrugs her shoulders, looks at the camera. What I think is interesting about these stories, that one was from the MUFON Journal, number 264. It's published in 1990. What's interesting about those stories are, I think, and I've talked about this before, so I don't want to go on too long about it, but there's different Bigfoot camps. Just like there's different ghost most people are kind of agree, if you believe in ghosts, you kind of agree what the origin story is. That they're the souls of the dead. There's not a lot of debate. Some people might say they're demons, but I think most people who believe in ghosts believe in demons. Most people who believe in demons believe in ghosts. But some people, I think that form of the paranormal is pretty connected. And I think as far as you look at like ESP, people who believe that telekinesis, telepathy, they're all pretty connected too. But when you get to Bigfoot community, when you get to the UFO community, you get a lot of divisiveness. UFOs, some people believe they're demons, some people believe they're interdimensional, some people believe they're from here, some people believe they're from outer space. And when I say from here, they're living within the cave systems, they've been here for 10,000 years, stuff like that. And even more different versions of what aliens are. And again, there are a lot of also people who just don't believe any of this stuff exists. We're excluding them. We're talking about the people who actually believe in this stuff. Bigfoots, you have people who believe they're an interdimensional entity, people who believe that they are a biological entity that can be found, tracked, hunted, captured, or killed. And this is kind of the mainstream view on Bigfoot, that it is a biological creature that lives in the woods. It has like a birth cycle, has a diet that it has to eat, it has territory, just like how you would catalog any animal. That's how it's usually portrayed on, like, Hunting Sasquatch, History Channel. Let's go Sasquatch hunting. Let's squatch. All that stuff. They're kind of like, they can track it and they're checking feces. They hunt them like they hunt deer. I think that, and this is where you go back all the way to how the Native Americans looked at Bigfoot. It was a spiritual creature. It was something that can move in and out of reality, could turn invisible, could read your thoughts. Basically a superpowered ghost is how this thing existed. And these stories kind of point to that. And what's interesting is that if you were one of the Bigfoot hunters who believed, like, 7 a.m., this is the ordinary time the Squatch wakes up. Yeah, I know. One day I woke up and I heard a Sasquatch yelling in the distance. Sounded just like a fox, but I knew it was a Sasquatch because then, like, a tree rattled nearby. It was full of birds, but coincidences, I don't believe in those. So, that's... that was, okay, to be fair, that was a straw man. That guy was obviously an idiot. But, my point is that if one of those guys who believes that it has a life cycle and is a biological entity saw any of this, saw a portal open up and Bigfoot jump out of it, it would blow your brain. Because imagine if you were hunting elk. You're out in the middle of the woods, and you go to shoot an elk, and the elk looks at you, and then goes, whoop, like, just flies away into a portal. But you'd be like, what? That's why I can never find elk, because they're magical creatures. I like this version of the Bigfoot story because it actually makes more sense. It makes sense why we can't find him because it's coming in and out of reality. But even that's not the most interesting part about this. These you Bigfoots are piloting spaceships. It's Chewbacca at this point. Bigfoot is basically a real-life Chewbacca. And it makes sense because what do we know about aliens? People say the reptilians, they're like totally tough. The reptilian aliens, they got claws, they be fighting you. They're like 7 feet tall, whatever. They're super tough, they would have taken over by now. Generally, people think of aliens as gray aliens or Pleiadians, humans. Nordics is the other term for them. So normal-looking humans. Or gray aliens. And yeah, reptilians, whatever. Anything that can't regulate its own body temperature, I'm really not worried about beating in a fight. I'll just keep punching it until we go into the shade. And he's like, oh no, I'm freezing. Punch it so hard it shatters. Like it's in nitroglycerin. If you can't regulate your own body temperature, I think I can take you in a boxing match. I'll just keep throwing my punches but not hit you, and the wind will slowly cool you down. Not worried about you. If the gray aliens or Nordics are running around, you need muscle. You're coming to Earth. You're coming to the toughest planet in the solar system, if not the galaxy, right? We haven't been invaded yet. We're basically killer apes. Humans were the monkeys who basically like wiped out every other single primate that could have possibly challenged us. We weren't monkeying around. We took over the planet. So if aliens are coming from other planets, especially gray aliens, they're still kind of weak. But where they're just like, oh, we had a very peaceful evolution, and they come down, you're going to have muscle, right? You're going to have a couple Bigfoot with you, which makes sense. You want to have that muscle. So the fact that they're guarding time portals, that they're piloting UFOs, Renanda, I don't want you to go to Earth alone. But Monka, I can do it. It's time for me to go on my mission. At least take Bigfoot with you. Me protect you. Me also know how to fly Class 5 warp drive engine. Fine, I'll take Bigfoot with me, but he stares at me while I sleep. I know, that's super weird, but I'd feel so much more comfortable for you. Oh, kiss me, my alien lover. Like, it would be good to have, the Benadryl's definitely kicked in. Oh, yes, me fly ship. Can't wait till she falls asleep so I can watch her. What'd you say? Nothing. He's setting up the secret cameras. Now, I don't know why now Bigfoot's an intergalactic pervert. Actually, it would make sense that Bigfoot would be a pervert, because he sees you, you can't see him. You're always, like, sleeping in the forest. He's standing in the bushes. He's always breathing really heavy. It would actually make sense. Bigfoot might actually be the most perverted cryptid out there. So maybe Bigfoot isn't a biological creature. Maybe Bigfoot's not necessarily some sort of mindless thing that runs through the forest, even if it is jumping from another dimension into ours. Maybe it is the muscle. Maybe it is the bodyguard. the enforcers of an alien race. Maybe Bigfoots exist simply to make sure nobody messes with other alien races while they're doing stuff in remote areas. And every Bigfoot sighting, if you went a couple hundred yards past the giant creature standing in the bushes that you're trying to grab your camera and also not wet your pants at the same time, there's an alien putting some sort of device into the soil or taking some sort of readings. We've covered tons of stories with Bigfoots and aliens being connected. And this, I always thought, well, maybe it's just kind of high strange, just maybe it's some sort of, they might actually be the shock troopers of an alien force. So somewhere out there right now, there's like a big old parade, right? There's a big old parade, and there's like Bigfoot walking through the parade. Everyone's like, yeah, whoa, yeah. And then like there's the whole like regiment of other Bigfoots walking behind him. He's the commander. They call him BF. He's walking. Main Bigfoot's like saluting everyone, holding his hand up. People are like throwing space flowers at him. And then he walks up, and the beautiful Empress Schnocki is standing there, and she like has her little like holographic glow in the dark. That's lame. You're in the middle of a parade, everything's lit up. Little holographic metal, and she hands it to Bigfoot, and he like holds it up, and then all the other Bigfoots are like, ah, and then he gives a speech. He's like, me, Bigfoot. We, Bigfoot. Everyone's like, yeah, and he holds it up again. And then, like in the background in the shadows, there's, like, an evil Bigfoot. He has a patch over his eye. No, he's missing a foot. He's missing a foot. And he has, like, a little holographic foot. That doesn't help him much, because it's not a solid hologram, so he has a crutch, too. He's like, oh, the traitors, they think that they're the heroes. They think, but it was me all along. And then they betrayed me. They betrayed me because I got caught in that bear trap on Earth, but I'll soon show them all. I'll show them all. And then credits roll for this fictional movie I made up in my Benadryl-addled brain. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. Twitter is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great weekend. Be safe, be kind. Movie Club, Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I love you guys. I'll see you later.